welcome to the Cyrus community. This is Business Unusual. We continue with our discussion of activating your rod. Now today, we're in a workshop. And when you talk about a workshop, you're talking about how to activate. We've talked about the 4 things. Now, how do we activate our rod? So when we say we're in a workshop, please give a definition of our kind of workshop.
Now, when we do workshops like this, the idea is that assume we were actually all in a room together. What would happen is that we would raise these issues that we are raising, and you would need to take time to work it out for you to get an action plan. That's why it's called a workshop. Work is activated from it. You shop for principles and you work them out. All right? But in this context, we'll say, as we go through them, this is important. We've got a number of them, but sometimes not all apply to you all the time, but you need to know all of them. You know what I just said? Not all apply
at the same time.
All the time at the same time, but all are important. So what does that mean? This becomes like your library. Becomes like your package point where you're able to go and do a checklist.
So you're not saying that even if we talk about, let's assume they're 10, they're 20.
Yes.
You're not taking all of them at the same time.
That's
you're asking yourself which one is relevant right now.
Which one is speaking to my present action?
Now.
Check it off. You're done with that, you can come back and look for another. So that means this is the kind of recording that is a workshop recording, meaning you need to have it on record. Which also means, remember, we not only do YouTube, we also do our own, our version. I've forgotten what we call it, but we have the audio version. The
podcast.
The podcast. See, imagine words disappear. The podcast. On our podcast, we also have our podcast, which the links are always there. And you will make sure they're available on the YouTube page, so you can get that audio and even have it on your phone or wherever, and continue listening, coming back and forth till you're clear on where you are. Because remember, our greatest desire in this window is that we've taught a lot about the power to create wealth, about who you are, about you being God's keys to move to the next level. Now we are trying to do everything possible. It's almost now we're going to training now on how to work these things out and become them. So it's important for us to understand that that is the context from which we are speaking. So we've kind of collected different aspects to try and cover everybody, right? So we said you'll find that some issues here are straightforward for you. Some are not at all. They're completely new.
Not at this point in time.
Not at this point in time. So just work that out.
So I think also the other thing we are saying, we've talked about the foundational principles.
Yes.
Now we are simply saying that, wait, when you look at those 4 foundational principles, now we need to go to the practicality of those same principles.
Yes.
Now, how do I take these things, break them into
reality, principles and steps?
Yeah?
Yeah.
So when you talk about keys, let's talk about you must know your source.
You must know your source. Now, this is important because too many of us start in the middle. You start with you. You get.
Wait, here I am, born again.
Yeah.
God is talking. I walk into TCC and I hear God is giving us power to create wealth. Then I start with we. God is giving us.
Me. Or this idea that we've been told by the world is a very confusing idea that says, look for what works for you. You're the center. Look for. So it's half a truth.
No, and half a truth.
Half a truth is a lie. That's a principle.
Yes.
Because I tell you, because you keep saying, I'll go where I am comfortable. I'll go where what is working for me. This is not working for me. That's the first way to lose direction.
Because wait. So you're simply saying that in life, you're not the center.
Exactly.
God is. Then in God, He redefines everything concerning you. Most of the time, we have this thing of, it is me in the center, and I hope you'll see this picture, that if you drew a circle, in the middle is you, that's what the world tells us, then out of it you have all these spokes, that come and define your education, your social life, your family, your religion. I am the center, and then I define. Now, in this workshop, we are redefining everything and saying, stop. God is the center.
He's the center.
Yeah,
if you're the wheel, He will be the center. You're
and
not
then
the center.
Out He redefines. He's the one who gives sense. Makes sense. And defines everything concerning us. Our work, our marriage, our children.
So what do we mean by saying He's our source? By the way, the word Father is the word source. Our Father. Our source. Source means He created you and He determines your capacity.
Our origin.
Yes, he
Our
created
source.
you and he determined. Remember what we did in the first session? We said something important. He said every seed according to its own kind. He and God said, let there be. So when you were created, God knew why and he knew what he has put in you. So he is actually the original source of everything. So you don't start world by trying to find a solution. You start life. Sorry, you don't start life by trying to find a solution. You start life by trying to find the reason.
And you can only do that by going back to your source.
Exactly, no?
That is why we always talk about going back to the Father,
Yes.
so that we can know, okay, like we say, when
Yes.
we say now going back to the Father,
Yes.
maybe today somebody has understood, we mean go back to your source.
Yes.
Because it's only your source that can make sense of your life.
Exactly.
Right now, when you go to Babylon, Babylon just messes us up.
Yeah.
You don't know who you are, or you're given a new
No, Babylon basically
definition.
No, what
of who
Babylon
you
does, Babylon creates its systems and fits you in. And tells you this is who you are,
So
according to what they want done.
I love one message you once taught called switched at birth.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you're born,
Yeah.
and at that point,
Yes.
your identity is switched.
Exactly.
So you grow up not knowing your real identity. Now the only
Absolutely.
person who can just give you your real identity is your source. Because when you talk about that every seed gives after its own kind,
Yes.
we are from God.
Yes.
So we explain that.
Being born again is not escaping hell. Being born again is not running to heaven. Being born again is finding your original lineage. Being born again means finally you've discovered who your family is. Now when we say God is your creator and he determines your capacity, it's not as simple as that.
Yes.
We are saying knowing your source doesn't mean attending meetings. It means knowing. You attend to know. You don't attend to arrive or to be around.
And when you know God
Yes.
as your Father,
Yes.
as your source,
Yes.
there is a confidence that comes on you.
Absolutely.
There's a confidence to face tomorrow. There's a confidence to face situations.
Yes.
There's a confidence to wake up and say, listen, anything I put my hands to do will prosper because I know
Exactly.
my source. There's a confidence when you look at yourself and say, guess what? I'm the best there is.
Yes.
I cannot copy somebody else. The version that God created of me
Yes.
is the best. I
Let me
cannot try
explain,
to.
something very crucial there. Knowing God has nothing to do with being a good person. Knowing God has everything to do with going back and realizing at creation that God created us to do amazing things in the earth on his behalf. It has everything to do with a God who is a creator, who expects us to be fruitful and expects us to abound in everything we do. That's what we mean. Unfortunately, religion has made us thinking knowing God is going to sit in a meeting and be taught things about God instead of learning who he is. Once you know who he is, God did not sit Adam down with teachings. God gave Adam instructions. So every time we go into the context of knowing God, we are going to get clarity on his intent for me and my operations. Now, to each one of us is a different capacity. This is where it gets interesting.
Yes.
Is that God is not going to give us all a blanket instruction because he didn't design us the same.
So we're talking about you must know your source.
Yes.
And that is why you'll notice in TCC we never start a meeting by saying you are blessed, because the question is by who.
Yes.
Some people want to be told you're blessed and they say amen.
Yep.
But the question is by who?
Yes.
Go back and know him first.
Yes.
Now if you know him, and I tell you he has blessed you, there's a message we did in the last few episodes where we talked about you are already blessed and then you are released.
Yes.
If you know who blessed you, you will walk in your full manifestation.
And if you understand the word blessed now, remember what we just said. God is your creator and he knows your capacity. That capacity is the blessing. You see the power of that?
Yes.
It's an exciting thing. When he blessed, he put a power in what he created you to be.
Yes.
So when you know that, knowing God is not God is powerful, God is great, God can do. No. Knowing God is that God I'm discussing, who is powerful and great, is the one who created me.
with a purpose.
With a specific purpose.
And that's the intent we always talk about and say, listen, you don't have a purpose. And we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
God has a purpose.
Yes.
Let's talk about you must understand how you are designed to function.
Yes.
That's our key number 2. You must understand how you are created to function.
Now, notice everything we are saying here is not a simple statement. Each of them requires work.
You have to sit down,
Yeah.
think through it.
Yes.
Yes.
Even research, even pray. Until God shows you who he really is. Sometimes you have to ask God, show me who you are.
Yes.
So that I know who created me. Remember in the last thing we said that the power of something is based on where it was designed from.
Yes.
So if you know who God is,
then you know who you
then
are.
some scriptures begin to make
a lot of
sense. There's a
Yes.
scripture that says, ye are gods, but you shall die like mere men. So we are not mere men. We come from the God family.
Yes.
Meaning the capacity to represent our Father.
Yes. And when you're a God to a situation,
Yes.
or like now when God told Moses, you will be God to
You
Pharaoh.
will be a God to
What
Pharaoh.
does that mean?
Yes, those are the things that become an issue, because the one who sent you, if you represent him, you come in his name.
Yes.
His name makes you a God to the situation. That's a power of it.
Understanding
Yes.
who your source
Yes.
is, that's powerful.
Yeah, and now you must now, like you've said,
Understand
how you were designed to function.
Yes.
Meaning, God created each of us with a specific design. Okay, what do we mean by design here? Design is not an outward issue. Outward is the outcome of the design. Design is the inward issue. When you say something can do something, you're not talking about how it looks like. You're talking about its capabilities.
Okay.
Okay? So what are we saying? What are your natural skills and abilities? Now, many of us, our natural skills and abilities are dormant or dead.
You know, when you talk about God created us, we always think of the spiritual side.
Yes.
Now, last week, in our last episode,
Yes.
we separated these two things and we said
Yes.
there's skills and there's gift.
Yeah.
All right? Now, when God created man, we also said that God created the spirit of man from his spirit.
Yes.
But God created the body of man from the
The earth,
natural.
yes.
The earth. Now, when you talk about natural skills, when God created this body, he allowed you to have skills.
Yes.
You can't sit and say God created me as a spirit to do what in the natural. In the natural, God put abilities in you.
Yes.
Those are the abilities you're talking
Absolutely. And we have seen people do amazing things with their physical capacity to show you just how much God put there.
about. Man has abilities, and
Yes.
like you're saying, some are dormant
Yes.
or dead.
Or dead.
Talk about that.
That's
and
a
also,
problem, yeah.
how do I come to this place? Because when I think my skills or abilities are dead or,
Yes.
or
Dormant.
dormant, how do I reactivate this?
Okay, this is what happens. I'll give you an interesting perspective that many of us can identify with, and also how I believe God begins to shift things. Okay? Now listen to this. Many of us, unfortunately, our natural skills and abilities were killed in the family. At home. Because as a child, there were certain things that you gravitated towards. You did naturally. Nobody nurtured them. In fact, they were switched off because they did not fit the generation you were born in. I'll say that again. They will not fit the generation you were born in, not your generation. Now, the generation I was born in is my parents' generation.
You are a new generation,
Yes.
but born into this generation
Exactly.
that does not respect.
They does not have prophetic insight of the future.
Yes.
So what happens? They want me to conform to their past, meaning what they did not achieve.
Well, right now I think there are people who are still suffering from that.
That is it. So suddenly they have this information that they have of what works, what is good for you, what can work out for you. The Bible is very interesting. It doesn't say raise up your child in the way you want them to go. It says raise up your child in the way they should go.
Yes.
Now that's a deep statement. That means God has to show you the path with which they should go. That's why when people were born, when Jesus was born, the parents were told who he is.
His name shall be, and this is
When
what
John was born, he was told who he is.
that's a picture showing us that every time somebody is born, God has a purpose. God has an intent for this person.
Absolutely.
And it is only him. That's why we talk about sin in the spirit. And I will repeat this again. That when you talk about dedication of children, it is not just us coming to say, let's pray for this child. No, it is us who are supposed to have an insight in the heart of God concerning this child. And then the father is supposed to speak the intent of God. So when the man of God is praying for a child, he is praying what the father has already seen. What he has seen. It's like coming to a synced position of who this child is.
And sometimes if you don't have the prophetic insight, then the minister who is with you should be able to see into the future and speak to you. Then you dedicate the child into that path. Dedicating has two meanings. One, you pray for them to stay in that path. You speak over them, but you commit as a parent to help them journey that journey so they can arrive into who they are. Now many of us, because that's what parents think, and listen, there's nothing wrong with our parents. It is the understanding they had of their time.
Your children think there's something wrong with
absolutely
every generation always think,
So as we go on, people, we have to become better and better parents.
Yes.
By being able to look and ask and speak and create space. Let others also look into that space and then say, look, God, listen, God is not wicked. Even if you don't have a prophet, you'll have prophetic behavior.
Yes.
Where a child begins to go in different directions, begins to gravitate towards certain things.
If you're sensitive, you'll pick it up.
If you're sensitive, you will pick it up, because you know why? They are uncontaminated. They have not yet been given barriers. They are acting naturally.
There's something you said about the different generations, and each generation thinking this child should now continue where I left off, using the past.
Take over what I did.
Yes. Or what I failed in.
Yes.
I want this child to take it up. We have a message on the different generations, and you said that we have 5 or 6 generations alive today.
In the same
we have
time
the silent generation. That is the ones who are past 70 years, going to 80. That's the silent generation. We have the baby boomers. We have those are the ones who were born in the 60s, in the 40s and the 50s. Those are the baby boomers. And then we have they gave birth to the Gen X.
Born in the 60s.
Okay. Now Gen X gave birth to the millennials.
Yes.
The millennials gave birth to the Gen Z.
Yes.
And of course now Gen Z and Alpha. Gen Z have not given birth yet.
Yes.
Well, maybe some.
But some millennials are giving birth to Gen Alpha.
Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Yes.
All right. So you'll always find siblings who are Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Now the problem is when you have a Gen X who has a millennial child, a Gen Z and an Alpha in one house. Now it's even worse when you have a baby boomer who has a Gen Z.
Who is the grandfather around?
No,
he was a Gen Z.
Yes. Because you'll find this grandfather who has a child. That child is a Gen Z.
Yeah.
The father is a baby boomer.
Yes.
My friend, there are 4 generations in between. I don't think they'll understand each other. Easy. I don't think they'll understand each other.
We have to go to, in fact, a day is coming where counseling will be generational counseling, not trouble counseling.
Yes.
Because we sort out the generational perspectives, we fix the problem.
And you see also sometimes when people ask, what's wrong with me marrying an older person? We are told, imagine a baby boomer, that is 60 and above, marrying a millennial
or a Gen
who is
Z.
27, 30.
Yeah.
Now, it's not just about age. It's about thinking. It's about mentality. It's
worldview, perspectives.
Forget about other issues here. Here we are just talking about the generational gap. So, there are many issues here.
Yeah. So that's why you must understand how you are designed to function. There are some natural skills and abilities, and like I was saying, some of these things were killed. Now, how does that change? One of the interesting things about this, and probably we'll also expand it more in another conversation, is what triggers the you in you. They're what you are called triggers. Where you go into an environment and you see somebody do something, and something in you begins to arise and begins to respond to it, and you find yourself drawn to it, or you find yourself wanting to adjust it. In other words, people who are given to fashion cannot help adjust your clothes.
Oh yes.
It's instinct.
Because that is in there.
They just feel it's not fitting properly. So sometimes there are people who we call busybodies, who are not really busybodies. It is that they are operating in a different zone, but when they meet what is them, it attracts, it compels, it causes them to act in a particular way.
Wow.
So you need to understand what were you, and trust God that whatever that natural skill and ability is relevant.
And you see what people say, this person is doing this so well and they were not trained.
Yes.
No, there's something called natural skills or
Yes.
abilities that were put there by God.
Mm.
You can enhance them.
Yes.
We've said that before. You can now perfect them.
Yes.
But the gift was put there.
Exactly.
Now, understanding your gift is so key because that's what brings peace, satisfaction. That is what you do and you feel like this is all I want to do.
Yes.
And like we said, whether I'm being paid or not.
Yeah.
But any natural ability or skill that God gave you
Yes.
will always attract money.
It will
attract whatever
it produces.
it needs. Yeah, and
It
produces.
is profitable. A man's gift will make room. It is natural. If you forget this point number 2, just remember, fish don't climb trees.
Let's go to number 3. You must know your purpose. Let's talk about that because that's another thing that I think if you go to church today, if there are any conferences that are being held all over the place that have the same title, is knowing your purpose.
Now here is where one of our greatest conflicts start. Because, like I say, we start in the middle. Most people who talk about you know your purpose make you the center. They never see your purpose in the context of God's greater purpose. It is God who has a purpose, and your purpose has value within his purpose. Your purpose is not a standalone thing, because you can't, listen, it's really funny to use the term, my purpose, without asking who created me. That's confusion.
To fulfill what?
Every person who designs something, the person who designed this seat had a purpose in mind. The seat cannot try to determine that purpose. It is only the person who created it that can determine the purpose. So telling you to find out your own purpose doesn't work. But there are keys to finding out why God created you and what is God's purpose. So this concept of purpose can only be looked at within kairoses. This is the problem. Within windows of times. Purpose is not a formula for your entire life.
I think I'll keep interjecting for those who are joining us for the very first time.
Yes.
When you hear saying within a kairos, we have a message on the YouTube that talks about kairos versus chronos, or kairos and chronos. Then that you understand that kairos are the seasons of God. Chronos is the timeline where you fulfill that purpose of God. So
that means within a certain context there is a purpose for you. Do not think of purpose as your lifelong thing. It is unfolding. There's no formula. There's no way you'll write out your entire purpose to the end of your life. It will never happen. It is within context. Why? Because it is God's purpose that places a demand on your purpose.
Okay, let's go back. Now you're saying that God has the greater purpose.
Yes.
Then he created men.
Yes.
Each fulfilling a piece of that purpose.
Yes.
Now talk about
Yes.
that.
Now let's use our favorite term at TCC, understanding the times and the seasons. The Bible says, and the sons of Issachar were those who understood. We talk about the 12 tribes of Israel, God's nation, the best picture of a kingdom community. All right? And the sons of Issachar understood the times and the seasons and what Israel ought to do. So not only did they know which season they were in, they knew the activity that needs to be carried out, and they knew who should carry out what. Now that is important for cohesion. All right? So the question that arises in every season, that's why we need prophets. Prophets let us know what God is intending in the earth. A kairos. Accurate prophets. When that kairos has been clarified, then that means for that kairos to be fulfilled, there are certain activities required. Okay? Those activities have to be carried out by people. But those people have to carry it out within their skill, their relationships, or what is natural to them. So there's no confusion in the kingdom. So God will not say, this is a season for planting maize if there are no farmers to hear that word. And there is no seed to be planted.
And there's no farm.
And there is no farm to plant that.
Notice how all things come together in a kairos.
Absolutely.
And that's when you talk about kairos, when you say finding your purpose, your purpose is relevant for this season.
Yes.
And I think we'll talk about that later. That it's relevant. So you cannot say this is my purpose, but when you look around you, there's no farm, there's no seed.
Exactly.
And you're still insisting, God is calling me to do this.
And so God has structured our life so perfectly that within a certain kairos, there's only a certain dimension of your ability needed. Not all your ability.
Okay, that's powerful.
Only a certain dimension. Ask Joseph. Part-time, there was a dimension of his activity needed.
His ability to prophesy the
Yes.
future in Egypt was not required when he was a slave.
Exactly.
His ability to operate in the prison was not required when he was in the pit.
Thank you.
Every season there's an ability that comes
Yes.
out. So when you talk about skills, God is not limited.
Absolutely.
God is not the type to just give you one skill,
Yes.
once it's finished, or once you're
No,
now
it's not
I'm
expanded.
older, I cannot do what I did when I was younger.
Exactly.
Therefore, I'm done. No, that's not
No,
God.
there is a demand on your skill and ability at that time.
At that age.
That is why, when Esther and Mordecai, if you remember, what does Mordecai say to Esther? You were needed in the kingdom for such a time as this. So the biggest question, part-time, that is important for your gift and ability is this: what time is it for? In other words, in what God is doing in the earth now, what part of my ability is required to function now? That's why we have a proceeding word, part-time.
I'm just thinking about something when you're saying that.
Yes.
That there is something you need to do at a particular time.
Yes.
Now, if you look at me today, there were days I used to dance more so,
Yeah.
Indian dance.
Yes. Oh, newsflash. She got awards
For Indian
in the
dance.
music festivals for Indian traditional dance.
Okay.
10 marks.
And
Whatever you do with that information is entirely up to you.
And I think
And
Indian
she could
dance
sing
is
them.
complex.
It's very complex.
You can sing and dance at the same time.
Yes.
Indian dance is complex. Just go and watch Bollywood. That's what we used to do. And I used to dance.
In high school.
Right now,
Yeah.
I seriously don't have rhythm. Okay, listen, I just can't put one and one together.
Maybe we need to play some Indian music.
Maybe I'll try. But today, if I now sit regretting, because those days when I was doing that, I was like, wow, this is all I would love to do.
Yes.
I would just love to be in Bollywood movies,
Yes.
that black person in the
Yes.
Bollywood dancing.
Yes.
If you ask me today that to do Indian dance, I'll be like, okay, for what
For
at
what
this point in
purpose?
time,
Yes.
how does it affect what God wants me to do
Exactly.
now? Now, can you imagine me going back to school to reactivate something that was required for that season?
Yes.
Now, where I am today, I'm not sure I need Indian dance unless God reveals something else there.
Exactly.
Now, me going back to pick up and the regret we have, that's what we said last week about regretting the past.
Yes.
Or rather, looking at the past with regret.
Yes.
Where I look back and say, wow, I used to do this. Another thing I used to do, I used to run. I was always number one, like in 100
She was
meters.
a sprinter.
Okay, listen, times have changed.
Absolutely.
For that time, it
That
was
was it.
relevant. For me, right now, if I start saying, "Oh, I want to go back to the gym because I want to run,"
I want to be that person.
God
You
is
can't go
stop
back
going
in
to
time.
the past. Use the statement you said.
Yes.
Understanding times and season
Absolutely.
and what I need to do.
Yes.
That is why Issachar
Yeah.
was above his brethren.
Yes, and that's what Ecclesiastes 3 talks about.
There's a time for everything.
There's a time for everything, and it concludes by saying, and you know one funny thing, there's one particular scripture in Ecclesiastes 3, verse 10. I love it. It says, He has hidden eternity in their hearts, even though they do not know it from the beginning.
Yes.
Which means it continues unfolding per season. Then it concludes by saying, He makes all things beautiful in its time.
Okay.
So the question is, what time is it for? Don't be pining to do what doesn't exist in this time.
Let's
Thrive in what is supposed to be done now.
Key number 4.
Yes.
You must remember we're in a workshop and you have to sit with these things. You
Absolutely.
notice each of them, you have to sit and think and
Yeah.
meditate and ask God and pray so that this can become you. This is about being practical with the things of God. Now we're
Yes.
talking about you must understand your resources.
Absolutely. This one is important. And I will clarify using the last point, part-time.
Not all, not
Yes.
not one.
Not all resources are needed all the time.
Yes.
When Jesus needed a donkey, that was the time to get it. When Jesus needed anything, that was the time to get it. When they needed to pay tax. That was the resources are abundant, but you must understand your resources part-time. You see how these things are interconnected?
What do I need at this point in time?
That's it.
That is powerful.
Yeah. Part-time you need spiritual resource. What is the spiritual resource you need now? What is the intellectual resource? Remember, spirit comes first. Spirit activates intellectual, because sometimes God gives you an insight which needs you to go study something.
Okay.
Once you've studied that thing, you may need to act on it, physical. Once you act on it, you may get a result, material. You see? Spiritual,
There's
intellectual, physical, material.
With that point now that you've just said,
Yeah.
there's something now you remind me that many people think when you talk of God's purpose, and I'm just going back a bit,
Yes.
when you talk of God's purpose, that it is about preaching,
Nope.
it has to do with the Bible.
Actually,
it has to do with the Bible. That's what we all think.
Actually, here is the problem. Preaching is supposed to introduce people to purpose.
Because now you've just said there's spiritual, there's intellectual, there's physical, there's material. You
Yes.
notice all those now contradict the God
Yes.
we know. Because when we
Yes.
talk about resources, we only know God will give me resources for church, for preaching, and when I'm very good in
Let
church.
me explain
And for
to all of you.
Yeah.
Our purpose is not preaching and teaching. Our purpose is transforming your mind to access God's purpose for you. Now, whether we do it through teaching, or through play, or through whatever, the
As long
call
as
is
the
to
call.
transform. Ours is clear. Uproot, destroy, plant, build. What? God called us with this clarity. Everybody has a major calling on their life,
Oh,
but they
yes.
have been clamped down by culture, by tradition, by Babylon, by all sorts of systems. We have to get past that noise and free you to fly like the eagle you are. That's ultimately what we are. So if you say we are preachers, wrong.
And you see, when you
Teachers,
talk about you must
wrong.
understand your resources per time,
Yeah.
notice he started by spiritual.
Yes.
Now, in that spiritual point, we'll also talk about your spiritual growth.
Yes.
Where are you fed? Where do you eat from? Now, do you understand when we tell people at TCC, we release you to look for who your priest in office is?
Yes.
If you're not growing here. Because if you want to understand your resources, spiritual includes where do you feed from. So if you're in the wrong house, you will not grow spiritually. You need to grow so that you know your father and so that you can start understanding all these other things we talk about.
Yes.
So when we tell people this is not where you ought to be, or he says something that you must understand your resources per time. So
Yes.
for this time,
Yes.
maybe this is not the best place.
Yes. And let me
Let me say this, sorry. There are some people who have left us
Yeah.
and came back 2
Yes.
years later.
Yes.
Now, this time when they come back,
They're
it's
okay.
not that they came back. No,
No.
where they were in the best place.
They needed
But
something
here now,
else.
when you come back, it's like,
Yes.
okay, now you are here, yes, for this time.
For this time.
I think
So we
that's
don't have time to
important.
judge,
That's
oh, you
important.
know where they went, they came back. We
No.
don't play that petty game.
No.
We realize that this kingdom has many other resources.
Yes.
And
Yes.
wherever else they went is a kingdom resource.
Yes.
And they needed something else put in for them to move to the next level. And now they feel where we are at is where they need to be. That's okay.
So we talk about spiritual, you said intellectual, you said physical,
Yes.
and material.
And material. Per time, understand what resources. When God says what is in your hand, He's speaking about now. Moses, what is in your hand?
What was your hand?
Now.
What was in your hand? What will be in your hand?
No, God doesn't talk about what will be in your hand. At that time, He'll tell you. That's a principle. And let me say something, even for us in ministry. Don't think for a moment God gave us a formula for the entire journey of TCC for the next 10 years. No. A leader is supposed to be ahead, but he must be in motion.
Okay. That's powerful.
He's ahead, but in motion, meaning that is where we have reached. But as we bring you, God takes us elsewhere.
Now, when you talk about that particular statement,
Yes.
let's look at the life of Joseph.
Yes.
Now, Joseph went into the pit.
Yep.
From the pit, he was taken to the slavery market. Then he
Yeah.
was taken to Potiphar's. He
Yeah.
went to prison.
Yeah.
Do you see that journey?
Yes.
Per time, whatever was happening to him. Now, when he was at the throne,
Yes.
this experience was very, very,
Very relevant to what
Okay?
he's doing. Yes.
And he would look there and say, you know what, there are things I've gone ahead of.
Yes.
There are things now I can sit and tell you, it was not you, it was God. Because I learned that in the journey.
Yes.
I'm not learning it now. So there are some things we could be talking about. For us, for example,
Yes.
there are things we can be talking to you about.
Yes.
We've gone through a journey which makes us know, listen, this is a reality.
Yes.
This is not teaching, it's a reality.
Let me tell you.
But at this point in time,
Yeah.
this is what God wants us to teach or to do.
Exactly.
At this point in time.
Let me tell you how serious it is. You mentioned Joseph. Most messages you've heard of Joseph end where?
The throne.
The throne, when he has done what? When the famine came as
Yes.
he had prophesied.
Yes.
Most don't go post the famine. There's still much more to be unpacked.
Yes.
And some of the contexts in those scriptures are still locked because a generation to understand them is not yet here. That's a reality.
So you must understand your resources
Yes.
per time.
So, why is that important? Because God will not give you an instruction that is dependent on another person's capacity. Listen carefully.
Wow.
God will not give you an instruction that is dependent on another person's capacity. So there is no day God will send something to you and you say, I can't move because
Of so and so.
so and so. That is not God. God will tell you to move. When you complete your bit, so and so's bit will kick in.
Because God works with men.
Yes.
There's no way he puts you in this isolation to fulfill your purpose.
Yes.
He'll always use men.
Absolutely.
But no man is going to hold your purpose back.
No one is going to
I
hold you
cannot
back.
fulfill this because...
Yes. So the story we normally give, that it is so and so who is blocking me is a lie. I'll say that again. Because that basically means God didn't give you enough resource to move. God is now bound by the person who has blocked you.
God will not give you a function or instruction that is dependent on another person's capacity. There's no time you can sit and say, because of so and so, I'm not being able to move. Actually, I would have loved to do all this, but because of you, you're hindering me.
Yeah. So now God, I would have moved, but so and so has not come. No. You move and finish your bit.
So you're simply saying that you must understand your resources, and your resources are not tied to another
people.
person.
What is the limit of my resources? If this is all God is working with now, it's a rod. That's enough.
So your spiritual, your intellectual, your physical, and your material resources
that you have
are not
now
tied to something else.
What you have now is adequate for you to do what God has called you to do now.
Do you understand why we are saying in a workshop? Because you have to go back and say, stop. Now, my spiritual resource cannot be stopped by any one other person. My intellectual, my physical or material resource cannot be stopped by somebody else.
Exactly.
That means I have to pull back and go and check each of these things and say, my spiritual resource, where am I at?
Absolutely.
Where am I at? Where my physical and all that?
Let me tell you why that is important. It is important because one of the strangest things that you'll be surprised, if, and I'll say this carefully, if currently you're not able to move because someone else is not moving, you're probably in the wrong assignment. Listen again. If your gift depends on mine, you are using your gift in the wrong place.
That means you have to sit back and start asking yourself, listen, what is my physical ability, resource? What is the resource that I have? And this resource is not dependent on other person, even though it will be fulfilled among other people. But it is not dependent. That's the key word, dependent on another person. Yeah.
No. It can collaborate, but it's not dependent. What does that mean? Collaboration means this. Depending and being dependent are two different things. Let me explain the difference. The lights here depend on the socket, okay? But they are independent of the socket, meaning they work together to complete. Now, once we put the lights on and plug it into the socket, they automatically come on. They cannot refuse to come on. You get?
So collaboration?
Yeah. In other words, if I'm doing the right thing, even the most wicked individual will comply.
Because God's intent
is already connected.
It will attract whoever it needs to be fulfilled. It is not your intent, it's not your purpose, it is God's purpose through you. Listen. Therefore, God cannot be held sabotaged by anyone. Yeah. Creation will come.
God is able to give Pharaoh a dream. Nebuchadnezzar a dream. How?
God is able to talk to Cyrus, a Median Persian, and this Persian hears him.
So in other guides, remember how we started? Who is your creator? What is his capacity? God is able to give your boss a dream that concerns you.
Wow.
God is able to give the government, the president, a dream that concerns you. If you are ready.
God is not stuck.
God won't give them a dream if you are not yet ready. How do you get ready? Use the spiritual, intellectual, physical material in your hands right now.
Look around you and say, this is what I have now. Remember when God is asking Moses, what do you have in your hand? Now Moses cannot sit and say, I have something, but Aaron is gone, God. You have to wait for Aaron to come back.
No
now Miriam took the thing I had in my hand.
No,
he cannot talk about his brother or his sister. What do you have in your hand? Number 5, you must operate in the right environment.
The question must always be, this thing I'm doing, can it thrive here? Will it live or die here? That's so important. Environment is so crucial. You cannot tell me that the gift you have will only work in America and you have no way to get there.
Okay.
If it is for America, the means will be available.
And everything will flow smoothly.
Exactly.
And every time the devil tries to stop you, because you know your source,
Yes.
and you know where you're going and what you ought to be doing now,
Yes.
there's an internal makeup that you have that says, I cannot be stopped.
Exactly.
Have you ever seen a river? A river is never stopped.
Yes.
Because it's on a purpose.
Yes.
A river always finds its way to where
Exactly.
it was going.
And now, before you jump and think that is why I am not operational, you know, don't be creative with ideas where you decide it's not working, it should work there. How do you know it will work there? You see, don't run from your environment.
Remember what you started by saying.
Yes.
You must know your source.
Yes.
That's what answers that question.
Absolutely.
So you don't start asking yourself, now which environment is the best for me? No, you don't ask you.
Yes.
Now you are confused, eh? You can't ask you. So it's like you're asking, I'm already in a hole,
Yes.
and you're asking yourself, how do I get myself out here? You
Now-
look up to God and say, listen, where I am right now, I can't answer this question.
Yes.
So you answer me and tell me which is the environment that I need to be operating from.
Exactly.
Going back to point number one,
Yeah.
you must know
Know
your
your
source.
source. And you know what we mean by thrive? Means, listen, whatever you place your hands within your environment, Moses' environment, the rod was perfect in that environment. It is only God who now moves it and gives it new power for a new environment. The new power it now has no value for the present environment. But in that environment, it had value. What am I saying? You cannot be moved to a greater environment if you've not outgrown your present environment.
Growth.
You have to outgrow it. What does that mean again? When we say, does your rod thrive in the environment? Is it in the right environment? The question is it relevant? Nothing you're trying to do now.
Is it
Is
relevant?
it relevant?
By looking at how we are dressed,
Yes.
you can tell that this morning is when this is not when you come and start selling us ice cream.
Exactly. It will not be relevant here.
It's not relevant.
Right now, you can tell for sure that's not what we are asking for.
That's not.
And
right.
if we are, you know that there's a biological problem we're suffering from to want to have ice cream right now.
So what you're simply saying is, whatever you have, is it relevant in your environment?
And can it grow?
Can
Does it
it
thrive? Can it thrive? Can it have life? Can it be improved in that environment? Can it do better?
So your question, when you say that thing, is it relevant? You're asking you,
Yes.
are you relevant in your environment?
Let me tell you why this is a big question. This
Yeah.
has happened many times when people have come to me, especially because of my background in innovation and IT and so on, with brilliant ideas that are useless here.
Okay, explain.
You want us to come, it's like saying, right now, I'll tell you for example, perfect example, this is not what has happened, but it's a reality. We are doing a lot of work in Liberia, okay? As a nation, the country has 12% power. Growing, but can you imagine what that means to a nation? All right, therefore, that tells you the footprint for internet, the footprint for many things is limited. Now, having this brilliant idea to start an Uber in Liberia would make no sense. Because the environment, the infrastructure cannot carry it. There is no, how would the drivers know where they are if there is no GPS because there's no internet? You begin to see. So while it's a brilliant idea and you might have all the money to do it,
It's not relevant.
it's not relevant, it can't thrive.
So that means you're saying, listen, I know, I can already see.
Yes.
Remember what you said. What you ought to be doing now.
Yes.
Understanding the time and the season. This time and season for Liberia, Uber is not.
Yes.
So I know it is in the process.
Exactly.
Shelf it.
That's it.
And allow God to work on the person who is working on the power.
Yes.
Because power will come.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that
It
God
is
will come.
growing daily.
It is growing.
But it's not the time.
So the idea is shelved.
Exactly.
Now the problem is when you're holding on to this Uber and saying there's nothing else I'm thinking
Exactly.
about.
And
This
the
is
question
only
I
thing.
have to ask myself, if I hold on to that idea, by the time power comes, is that idea even relevant anymore? It probably
relevant. That
is it
means
relevant anymore?
as a son of God, we are simply saying that you must always be relevant in every season, every
Yes.
situation, everywhere you are.
Exactly.
You must be
You must
relevant.
thrive right now.
Okay?
All right?
Now you must work on your capacity.
Aha.
Continue.
This is important.
Yes.
Remember, we've already talked about you knowing what you have, what is in your hands spiritually, and everything. Now, what do you do? Working on it is, how do I put this? Upgrade it. Make it the best. Listen, if your gift is keeping things clean like you're paranoid,
Yes.
clean like this is all you do, upgrade the broom. I'm using the simplest thing I can use. Make a better broom. Improve your broom. Check where you swept and discover why did this do. Invent a broom. Enhance the broom. Change the posture of how to hold the broom. Come up with a better way to do it. Why? Because the more something becomes upgraded, the more it will attract its demand area. Listen carefully.
It's true.
If you work on your capacity, suddenly the place where it is needed will become very relevant.
Let's give an example, another example here.
Yes.
In the baby boomer generation,
Yep.
who was going to work? You'll find most of the time it was the men.
Yes.
They would go out to the mines, to the field, to
Yes.
work, wherever.
Yep.
The women are left home.
Yeah.
Now they have a whole day
Yes.
in a small space.
Yeah.
So they could take a broom and
Yeah.
sweep.
All day.
Yeah,
They would cook
manually the
all
whole
day.
time.
Yes.
Everything they used was manual because there was time.
There you
Now
go.
skip and come now to this generation now.
Yep.
The most vibrant generation right now are the millennials. Now the husband, the wife are working.
Yes.
When they come home, they want the easiest things. I mean, like anything that makes work easier.
Exactly.
So that's why you're saying, if it is a broom, stop thinking of the baby boomer season
No.
and say the brooms were like this and you're still selling those brooms. The generation today will tell you this is not relevant.
Yeah.
Because for me, I want to come home and I have 2 hours to make sure things work.
Exactly.
So everything to me is about what we call microwave. What
Yes.
does that mean? Instant.
Yes.
Whether it is a cleaning,
Whatever it is.
I want to warm something, I want to
Yes.
wash my clothes, I want to hang them, I want to dry them, everything should be instant.
Absolutely.
Now you must start thinking different. When you talk about enhancing, I'm saying, will we still mop our houses? Yes, but enhance the mop.
Yeah.
Are we still going to brush up things? Yes, improve, upskill the rooms and all
yes.
this. The
Listen, if upgrading,
that's what I was looking for. The things we use, what are they?
upskill the utensils, materials.
Yes, material, whatever.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things about upgrading your skill and operating and trying to get up is this. If you are finding it as a core, if it is tiring you, you're probably upgrading the wrong thing.
Yeah.
If it is a struggle to stay awake, if it is a struggle to do, you're upgrading someone else's tool, not yours. Because upgrading your tool, time stops. You don't notice time. People have to call you, come and eat, come and do this, because it is your capacity, it is growing. And the more it grows, the better you are, the better you feel. Listen, when say if you're a guitarist, when you learn new chords, you feel good, you want to play them.
You must work on your capacity. You
Yes.
must cultivate your potential.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Now, what is cultivating your potential? You see, on the one hand, you've upgraded yourself completely. Now, cultivating your potential is learning how to go out and finding space for this thing to work. Listen, let's assume I've gotten a good tool, isn't it? I've sharpened it, it works very well. Now I have to go and cut something with it. I have to produce something with it. I have to see if it can multiply, see if it is productive, see if it is useful to others. You see the next part now. The first part was mine, me upgrading myself. The second part is finding relevance. Taking it and seeing. If you are a painter, paint very well, work on your skill, then take it out and see if people are interested. Are they going to buy it? Now that's cultivating.
You notice this thing requires what we said before, responsibility.
Yes.
That you don't just sit and say, because God has given me a natural ability, I can
Yes.
do this. So I will sit down and allow now the angels to go and do marketing for me.
Yes.
You have to get out. You have what you're talking about.
Yes.
Cultivate your potential. Go out, talk to people.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Why I use the term cultivate also? Farming term.
Yes.
What does cultivate means? You only cultivate when you've already planted. Meaning, look for weeds, remove.
What
adjust.
does not work?
What needs to be adjusted? Why are you
Yes.
taking this out? Receive feedback. You know the problem sometimes? You produce something, people tell you there's something wrong with it, you're angry. Listen, it is not you who will buy, it is them.
You're not the user.
Yes,
I think that
allow
is
them
key.
to adjust.
When
it.
we come and tell you, please improve on this
Constructive
thing.
criticism.
You know what? They even told me, I don't know, I won't
Yeah.
even sell to them anyway. I'm gone. I don't want to do this
Then
anymore.
buy it yourself.
Okay, wait. Who are you making it for? Remember,
Exactly.
whatever God allows you to do for Him,
Yes.
it is for men.
Yes.
Humans, not for you.
Absolutely.
So you cannot say, I have this skill and I have this capacity, but please don't tell me about it. You go make yours.
If you
Go
don't
make
like
yours and
if you
tell me.
don't like my music,
Excuse me.
stay. No. Sing it to yourself.
You need men. They're the ones who will buy, promote, and make your gift great. The Bible talks about your gift will open doors and bring you
before great men.
Not bring you before yourself.
No.
It will bring you before
And what
men.
happens? Why are you cultivating that? You're cultivating relationships. You're cultivating feedback, positive feedback. You're listening. Listen, there are people who will criticize you for the sake, but have the wisdom, like I always say. Eat the grass, leave the stones.
When you hear people's criticism, you ask yourself, wait a minute. There's a truth
Is there a point?
I need to improve on this one. I need to change this. I need to listen. Learn how to hear and tell yourself, I can tell these are stones, I don't need to sit on that one. And always knowing when God gives you something, there are people who will try to shut you down.
Yes.
All right? The enemy is at work. He will use men. So be wise and eat the grass. Enjoy the grass and ignore the stones. All right?
Let me tell you, many opportunities have failed on this one. Because you don't like people's opinions. Listen, there's a difference between somebody trying to shut you down and somebody trying to adjust you. There's a big difference. Don't fall for the trap. Shut down means, this will never work, it will fail. Ignore those ones. But those who tell you, this is nice, but you could have. Pay attention.
Yes.
Ask yourself, have 3 people said the same thing? Am I missing something? That's where you need to go. That's how your product becomes useful and available. Right now, customer feedback is the most important concept in research and development. What do they really want? What do they enjoy about what we have? What is our strength? What is our weakness? How do we improve on our weakness?
Key number 8. Remember, we are still in a workshop where we are saying we must bring into practicality the things that we have learned. And we are saying that you must guard your capacity. We are still saying your rod must bud. That one we know. But for it to bud, these are the things you need to work on. Number 8, you must guard your capacity. You must guard.
Now, notice the term guard is a very interesting term. It's not the term hide. It's a term guard. Guard means to protect something, giving it room to thrive. It doesn't mean keep it away.
Guarding is not hiding and I'm hiding this and nobody will see this.
No. That's what people think. I'm guarding my idea. It will never grow. You don't hide it. You guard it. Guard it means protect it from a toxic environment. Remember what we just said earlier about people who are trying to tell you it can't work? That's what you're guarding it from. Places where it will not thrive, that's what you're guarding it from. Negative environments, that's what you're guarding it from. Weird attitudes of weird people, you're guarding it. But that doesn't mean you're hiding it. David asks a question, what shall be given to whoever kills this giant? His brothers attack and try to cut him off. Say, who have you left with a few sheep at home? And the Bible says, and David turned and asked another.
So that's so key that when I find a negative attitude or a negative people, I turn and look for another. You will find the positive. So if you find a negative, can you imagine you're finding these people who are so negative and you're still staying there? You're still holding yourself and saying, listen, but they are my circle of friends, but they are toxic.
Let me tell you, if you don't understand that concept, you'll fail almost in anything. I can tell you in ministry, there are times when God gives us an insight we are so excited about. And when you share it with the people, when you see the slow uptick, you could easily say, leave them alone. But you have to understand, you're guarding that truth, not them. So you have to keep finding another way and another way until they get it.
And that means also, like a farmer, when you have your seed, when you know this is the thing that I need to move to the next level, this is what God has entrusted within my heart, you guard that. But when you find a problem, a mountain, or something, a barrier, you do not say, I'm going back home.
No.
In fact, I'm not going to do this again. By the way, I tried that.
People have done this to me. I don't trust people anymore. I don't talk to people anymore. Goodness, you're killing your gift. You're killing your rod. What you do is you guard it. Weed.
If somebody is watching you and saying, guess what? I've been looking back and I've been sitting back and saying, I'm not going to do this because people did. You'll do nothing.
Listen.
You'll do nothing.
There are people who are sent to kill your gift. You just agreed with them.
To stop you. They are actually people on a mission.
You have actually complied.
I think also you have to always remember we said this. The enemy is at work. He will use men. We said last conversation that God is looking for a man. So is the devil. What is the devil looking for the man for a man for?
To stop what you have. Listen, people who are going nowhere love company.
Don't join them.
When you want to go somewhere, you offend.
So you're offending the people who are going nowhere.
Exactly.
So they will do anything to stop you.
Yes.
Listen, we are saying you must guard your capacity, whatever God has given you. Now,
Guard
the
it.
next one is interesting, is you must share your capacity.
In fact, that is the reason for your capacity. Capacity is given for the benefit of many, not for the benefit of one.
Yes.
God gives capacity for the benefit
Of many.
of many. Listen, there is no point in us having the knowledge we have if we don't share it with you.
What if we are
It's
sharing
up-
among ourselves?
Ourselves would be full of knowledge only. Nothing will be changing in the earth.
The joy is when you say, listen, I have seen this thing, God has shown us this, it has worked for us, and He's telling us, listen, I'm giving you the ability
Yes.
to pass it to somebody
Exactly.
else. But even with that, when we are
Yes.
sharing,
Yes.
we had to go out of the way to say, listen, we need this camera, we need the light, and we need all this, we
Exactly.
need a microphone, we need all these things.
Yes.
So
So this can be shared in the nations.
share your
People
capacity.
can listen, that's where it is. You never know what and who or when God will use it or how. So don't also share looking out for how the outcome will go.
Yeah.
Just share.
Share your capacity.
Yes. The Bible says, cast your bread on many waters.
I think this one for TCC, I had forgotten. I keep telling you guys, can you share what you're doing in the business and issue group?
Yeah,
Can you
share.
tell us what you're doing? Because when you don't share your capacity, sometimes you feel like, by the way, I don't have clients here. Listen, they might not be your clients, but listen, we might be your path. We might be the people holding the clients you're looking for. Because right now you can be saying, you know what, me, I'm selling planes, and I don't see any pilot in TCC who is willing to come and fly, or I don't see anyone in aviation. Listen, we could be the people who know the person who is looking for a plane.
I am telling you.
I'm using a plane because that is one of the weirdest where you're like,
Yes.
by the way, I do planes. Okay, listen, whatever you do, you're selling rice, we know the people who eat rice.
Just share.
You have a school, we know the people with children.
You can write,
So,
you
when
can
you're
sing.
sharing, yes.
Some of you have done some powerful things. You've sent us things recently. We will be responding because we didn't even know you had that capacity.
Yes.
That's the power of this thing.
Sharing, and by the way,
Sharing
it was
makes a
after
difference. It was
sharing.
after sharing.
And when you're listening, okay, let me ask you,
Wait.
really? This is
You
just
mean?
in our midst?
Exactly.
Guys,
That
when we
is the
talk
principle.
about in a group where you are told, share what you do. Sometimes God is looking at you and saying, fine, I've given you the ability, the wisdom, the power, and everything. You are not sharing it. What do you want us to do?
Let me tell you what is funny about how God operates. Yes, by God's mercy, because He's a Father, He might tell me to ask you a question.
Yes, which reveals
Yes,
your
which reveals
capacity.
your capacity by
Okay?
His mercy, but that is not the best model. Let me explain it this way. When you remember people, don't you also remember what they do? Is that the first question?
Yeah.
What does so and so do?
Do.
So if I don't know what you do, I will not remember it. And if I don't remember it, I may meet the person you're looking for, whom you can't meet.
Yes.
And yet God just designed you to know me because I know them. And so, and they will ask me a question. Many times people ask me
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone? Listen to the question. Do you know anyone who does 1, 2, 3? No, I don't. It's not
Because
that,
you're
you
not
see, it's a big
talking.
question. It's a difference between, is there anyone in your community who does this? They probably are. But do I know? No. That's why we put up that group. That's the deliberate reason we put up that group. So you need to, listen, imagine for a minute, a songwriter writes a song and then sings it to themselves. What use is that song? Now, if they write a song and release it to a musician who can play it, if the musicians don't play, we never hear the song.
Yeah.
If the musicians play, an audience hears. So the songwriter has affected the audience
Just because of sharing.
because they shared their song.
Yeah.
That's the power. Do you know why we love movies? Because a script writer writes a script, gives it to a producer, who finds actors who produce a movie which we watch. That is how it works.
Notice how Babylon is good at sharing.
They are.
Sharing. Even whoever came up with the Facebook concept of share.
Share.
They knew one thing.
That was the
On
power.
Facebook, if you go to Facebook and you write something and I share, I have how many people in my network? Then my people, one of them shares, who has another big, listen, even Babylon knows. Share. In fact, that's how we always say. Like my page and share. What are we trying to say, guys? Share.
Let me ask a question.
Share.
Imagine social media without the share button. Copy paste. None of you will do it. It's tiring.
Let me say something here. Most people will not share your link. Even if you tell someone share, it doesn't cost you anything. It just costs you pride. Pop, share.
Yeah.
But they will not do that.
Exactly.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because I don't share your material,
Yeah.
I will not share mine.
Yes.
Because I know I don't promote yours. Why am I sharing mine? So some people don't know how to share what
You
they
get
are
stuck.
doing. So their capacity now, you are stuck. And you know all it takes in social media. Seriously, it's only pride to just share for someone. Where you click and say, wait a minute. If I share this, there could be one person connected to me who needed to meet this person. When you see yourself as a tool in God's hand, pride will go. Just share, like, comment,
you know
do something and help somebody else move to their next level.
Now let me say something. In this new world we live in, media, social media, you end up posting and you wonder why no one shares. Whose do you share? It's a principle. You post and you wonder, you keep checking, nobody shares mine. And I don't say, because you don't share. Listen, this thing works in every realm.
Yes.
You want people to be sharing your posts? Share people's posts.
And it doesn't cost anything.
We even have a particular thing we do. If we enjoy anybody's thing, anywhere, we like. I don't need to know you.
And if I know you,
I benefited from your creativity. This is the best I can do.
There's something also we do. If I watch something and I'm like, wow, so and so should see this because I know they are doing this. This person could be somewhere in the Amazon, wherever they are, in Timbuktu.
Yes.
Wherever they are, whatever they are doing, it could help you in what you're doing.
Yes.
For example, let's say you do clothes, and I see somebody who is doing something so
unique,
fantastic somewhere out there. You two might never meet, but you know what? This thing could help you.
So
I'll forward it to you. I'll share it. So sharing is where you tell people, be the tool of God. Tell yourself, you know what, I don't know why I'm sharing, but I don't need to know. I only need to know one thing. This could be the only button I needed to click for these two people to meet and change their lives.
But what I find funny, the minute something is annoying, stupid.
Oh, that one you share.
It is shared with alacrity.
That one you share.
I don't get it. So can we start sharing good, not evil?
Key number 10, you must know and understand the laws of limitation.
Aha. This is important. Not your limits. You know, we always think, this is my limit. No, we're talking about limitation. Limitation means jurisdiction. Part-time, whatever you're able to do, functions in a particular environment. Don't overextend yourself. Perfect where you are.
Yes.
Know your jurisdiction means know how far you need to operate. Let me put it even in one of the simplest things. In prayer, know your jurisdiction. What does it mean? What do I understand about God? What do I understand about His reality of what He can do? My prayer should stay in that jurisdiction of where I think I have the authority to speak.
And it will be more powerful because it is an answered prayer.
Don't pray for the nations. You have no impact there. Don't pray for the outcome of what is going on in Guatemala.
I think what happens is when people don't believe God has people in those situations, in those areas,
where He has positioned them within their jurisdiction to do theirs.
There are people today who will be, for example, saying that there are so many things that are happening in the world. Now, for me, this month, I'm praying against the Rainbow Nation. Why you bother? That's not a jurisdiction. There are people called there. And you know what? They have the love.
Absolutely.
They have the heart of God.
They have the connection.
They can
talk
to these people and even
bring change
in their lives because they love them.
Yes.
Everybody is looking for love, not for criticism. I don't want prayers where somebody is praying from
You're attacking people in the name of prayer. You're complaining in the name of prayer.
Yeah.
That's not the idea.
So really,
secondly, pray within context that you can see answers.
Okay.
Don't pray for something you'll never be able to check if God answered you. It has to be within context.
So you're saying that when you understand your jurisdiction, this determines whether something will blossom or die in your hands.
Know your jurisdiction. Now, remember earlier we talked about a product, knowing does it work here or not?
Yes.
There are places where it works, it thrives there. That's where you focus. If this is your gift. Now listen, moving countries, traveling nations is not wrong, but it should be connected to jurisdiction. Part-time, remember? Everything we say is part-time. There was a time our jurisdiction was Botswana.
Yes.
That's where we had to stay.
Yes.
That was our operational system. But as God upgraded, remember the upgrade part? All these things we talk about are part of our life. We basically just went in to check. We upgraded, upskilled, changed perspective. The season changed. God moved us back to Nairobi. upgrade, scale, change. We are doing some work in Liberia. Is that the end?
No.
It's a journey. That's what it means. What is jurisdiction? Part-time. Some of you in the business unusual, you know that currently you are part of the business activity that could go on in Liberia. Some of you know right now that's not your capacity.
Part-time. I mean,
right
Kenya,
now, just your
where...
ability to go there is not yet there. But thrive here now.
Oh, yes.
And grow here now within the space that you have.
I always believe that in every conversation, we always bring it clear. It becomes clearer and clearer when we say, you be found connected to your vine. You be connected to your source, understanding who your creator is. So that with that understanding, your fig tree can blossom. Your capacity can blossom. That which you're doing, your rod can bud. Because I understand who my creator is. So when we keep telling you, may you be found seated under your vine. What is sitting? Comfortable. I am in this place and I understand and I'm comfortable about it. I'm at peace about it. I'm at rest about it. Guys, this is where we say, keep it kingdom.
Keep it pure.
Keep it pure.
God bless you.